Network Nation, good morning to you, aka Ron G, your console, coming to you today with a very special Mindset Monday podcast for you. Mindset Monday. Wow, where do we begin? Monday, June 19th, the holiday, the official holiday of Juneteenth. And I really think today's Mindset Monday is going to be extremely appropriate to my African American audience. One of the most, if not the hardest working and the most productive group of people that are into my Network Nation audience. I would say out of all of the groups in the middle class community, and please don't take this personal to any of my other followers, I would have to say, and I'm not being biased because I'm a part of it, but just from what I've seen from the history and of course in present day, one of the hardest working groups in this country by far, the African American communities. I would have to say the backbone of most of the top organizations, the top companies in this country. If you've ever worked in the fields of, like, let's say, customer service, and I call that frontline, right? And I've worked for some major corporations in my last 30 years. I've worked for some major corporations, okay? And when I've worked in those major corporations, I've always started out like in those entry-level positions, because, you know, if you don't have the accolades and the college degrees and all that stuff, you end up in those groups. And when you go into those groups, the customer services, the operator services, the interface of the customers, dealing with the fires, look around the floor and tell me the majority of the people that you see in those positions, the majority of the people you see in those positions, African American women, groups like that dominate those positions, in those type of positions. So, which means that they were the ones that were on the front line. So when I speak to that, I'm speaking, you know, from what I've seen, you know, and what I've encountered. And, you know, the criminal jobs, as you go up the line in a lot of these corporations, up the ladder in a lot of these corporations, you start seeing less and less, you know, of the African American communities, and more of other nationalities. But when on that front line now, you know, where the war zones are, these companies like, you know, IBM and Bell Atlantic and you know, even these companies like FedEx, you know, these big time companies, you know, if you look on the floor where all the production, and remember now, that's the glue of the operation, you know, predominantly your African American communities. And so a salute goes out to that. Obviously today is Juneteenth, and when we talk about Mindset Monday today, I really want us to really dive a little bit deeper. And I mean, we've all began, I would say, in the latter few years, and even me myself, and as much as I've read and studied, it's only been the last, I would say, 6 or 7 years that I really began to understand, even myself, what was this, the whole thing with Juneteenth and the significance of it, as many of the leaders came out to, you know, to communicate with the population, the general population, about, you know, what went into that. And you know, when you look at the reality, and for the sake of those who don't know, I'm actually shooting this video in one of the, I would call it the Mecca of the struggle, one of the cities, you know, one of the states, South Carolina. And you know, for those of you who don't know, you know, South Carolina was one of the last states to take down the Confederate flag. They had it at the state capitol, literally for decades. I think in the last 7 to 8 years. You could fact check me, guys, if you want, but they just recently took that flag down. And so there is a concentrated effort to bring to light the Juneteenth, and people understanding that, people didn't realize that they were even free in some of these other states, that they had kept the way that the Confederate had lost the war, and that people were really free. And then there were a lot of other stories that we've heard about where slaves were really kind of manipulated back into like working almost for nothing, because they really didn't understand the magnitude of what freedom really meant. And so even though it appeared that they would be super excited and be moving on to greater levels and greater heights, what we noticed when we observed the facts from the evidence has shown that a lot of those recently released slaves didn't really go on to do much of anything else. As a matter of fact, there was almost a fear of them actually having to go out there and produce for themselves. Now, we can go into why those reasons were. We can say that, due to the atrocities of slavery, that the mindset was actually, which is where I'm going with this, was actually damaged in a way, similar to how if you take a lion and raise him in a civilization, and you take that lion 10 years later and put him back out, in that jungle, he probably will starve to death, right? Or be killed himself, or be somebody's dinner himself, right? And so that was kind of like the mindset that went on, around the African circles, that we were devalued so much that we didn't understand how to take care of ourselves, that we only understood how to take care of someone else and produce for someone else. And so, and while all those things obviously go into it, I just thought that it was appropriate on Mindset Monday to bring to the forefront of what really drove me to even start this YouTube channel, right? And what I realized was that even though slavery was way, way back, in the 1800s and 1600s, 1700s, as I began to get a little older and a little more seasoned, and I started to kind of move around, obviously the bulk of my years in New York City, and then the second major bulk of my years in the Mid-Atlantic area, and now obviously in the South, I've been able to see a very interesting trend in all of those locations, which I thought, now as I look back on it, I said it's almost mind-boggling. And what I noticed is that within that same community, the African-American community especially, it's almost like there's some similarities that went on back in those days where, those slaves were lied to devalue themselves. And what am I saying is that I've met some of the most phenomenal people in the last 25 years that I can't even put into words. The talent, the intellect, the character. And I've met them in the bell systems, I've met them in the security systems, I've met them on the railroad. I've met some phenomenal people. I lie to you not. And as I look back on a lot of those people, and I said, some of them I even told, like, what are you doing here? Why don't you have your own practice? Or why don't you have your own company? Or, why are you not singing? Or why are you not playing baseball? Why are you not designing clothes? Or why you don't have your own YouTube channel, right? And so what I began to realize as I thought about today's podcast and Mindset Monday is that we have to be very, very, very careful about aligning ourselves with organizations, companies, or whatever that do not allow our minds to go and grow. And listen, make no mistake, I am not saying there's anything wrong with working with or for anybody. I was never going to say that, because we got to make a living out here, guys, right? And not everybody can just go out there and start a company, start a business, or whatever. I get that. And maybe I'm not even speaking to that particular audience in the nation. Maybe This particular Mindset Mondays podcast audience is for those of you who are not sleeping well at night, those of you who've maybe turned the dial on a certain age, and those of you who have data to look back on and say to yourselves, man, I feel like I can do so much more. Man, I feel like I have so much more to offer. And man, you know, I'm struggling to sit here and sit down and shut up, right? And you know, I laugh all the time when they say, shut up and dribble, right? They tell LeBron and the ball player, oh, just shut up and dribble. Like, just shut up and run these trains. Just shut up and drive that bus. Just shut up and enter that data. Just shut up and troubleshoot for my organization. You know, just sit down and shut up and keep making me a millionaire. Mindset Monday is about challenging our own minds. Mindset Monday is about getting in here, so that we could be the best versions of ourselves. See, Juneteenth don't mean anything if we just go around, wear some nice shirts, bang on some drums, say a few lyrics, get us to remember, moment of silence, and then we go back to business as usual on Tuesday morning. See, that's not Mindset Monday. Mindset Monday is to trigger thought processes that trigger a chain of activity events to change the trajectory of our pathways to move us to where we're supposed to go. That's what Mindset Monday is all about. It's about reflection and review. Looking back a little bit. Not getting caught up in looking back, but looking back to see where trajectory that we're on and where we're heading. And when we realize that this is not where we want to go, as simple as when you're off track and the GPS throws you off, what's the first thing you do? You pull into a rest station or gas station. You go in, you grab a soda or coffee or whatever. You ask the man, hey, I was trying to find, Jones Road. And he goes, oh yeah, you just go down that way, make a U-turn and go back the other way. See, I'm the guy at the rest station. That's what Net Worth Nation is. That's what Mindset Monday is. I'm the guy at the rest station who you pull in and you say, or you text me, or you get on my DM, whatever you do, and you say, hey, you know what? I'm going in the wrong trajectory. I need to spin around and go back the other way, right? And so that's what I do. You let me know, and then we get you turned around, and we get you to go back in the right direction. So Mindset Monday for Juneteenth is this, guys. We all know the war is over. We all know that we won. We all know that there's certain freedoms. We all understand that things have changed dramatically. But I guarantee you and rest assured that it doesn't mean a thing unless our minds adapt to the freedom that has been given. See, the freedom doesn't really mean anything if we're not conducting ourselves as if we're free. So before I close, if you're sitting down on your hands, if you're dumbing your mindset down, if you're dumbing your capabilities down, just to say I got 10 more years on this job and I'll ride it out, and then after I retire at 68, 60, whatever, I'll go figure it out. If that's you, pull into the rest station, right? And let's get you on the right road, because here's the thing, guys, tomorrow is not promised to no one or anyone or anybody. And because of that, it's very important that today is the day to make those changes. See, if those people had waited to walk off that plantation 5 to 10 to 15 years, at the late rate of mortality, half of those people would have died. They would have died. They would have never saw freedom. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not about waiting. It's about today is that day. Listen, guys, Juneteenth is not just the ordinary holiday. Reflect and correct and move forward. Once again, I love you all. Ron G, aka Your Console. Enjoy. Happy Juneteenth to you all. Peace.